ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਸੰਸਦ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਭਾਈ ਹਰਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਿੱਜਰ ਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਸ਼ਰਧਾਂਜਲੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਭਾਰਤ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਤੇ ਭੜ ਗਿਆ। ਏਅਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਬੰਬ ਕਾਂਡ ਦੀ ਯਾਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਉਲੀਕੇ। ਏਅਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਹਾਦਸੇ 'ਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਅਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਵਿਦੇਸ਼ੀ ਲੋਕ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ ਦੋਸ਼ ਵੀ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਸਿਰ ਮੜਿਆ ਗਿਆ। ਸਮੇਂ ਦੀ ਚਾਲ ਨੇ ਸੱਚ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਲੈ ਆਂਦਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਭਾਰਤ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਸਰਦਾਰ ਰਿਪੁਦਮਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਮਲਿਕ ਨੂੰ ਭਾਰਤ ਦਾ ਵੀਜ਼ਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਮੋਦੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਿਫਤਾਂ ਕਰਦੀ ਚਿੱਠੀ ਲਿਖਵਾਈ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਅਚਾਨਕ ਕੁਝ ਦੇਰ ਬਾਅਦ ਸਰਦਾਰ ਮਲਿਕ ਦਾ ਕਤਲ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ। ਸਮਾਂ ਮੰਗ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਤੋਂ ਏਅਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਕਾਂਡ ਦੀ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਜਨਤਕ ਜਾਂਚ ਦੀ ਮੰਗ ਕਰਨ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਸਰਦਾਰ ਰਿਪੁਦਮਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਮਲਿਕ ਦੇ ਕਤਲ ਦੀ ਜਾਂਚ ਵੀ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੱਧਰ ਤੇ ਹੋਵੇ। ਆਖਿਰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਕੋਈ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਨੋ ਫਲਾਈ ਲਿਸਟ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕਢਵਾ ਕੇ ਭਾਰਤ ਲੈ ਗਿਆ, ਜਦਕਿ ਭਾਰਤ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਏਅਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਹਾਦਸੇ ਦਾ ਦੋਸ਼ੀ ਗਰਦਾਨਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਏਅਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਹਾਦਸੇ 'ਚ ਮਾਰੇ ਗਏ ਵਿਦੋਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਯਾਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਰਦਾਸਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਹੋਰ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੱਧਰ ਤੇ ਸਮਾਗਮ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਣ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਪੀੜਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੱਚ ਅਤੇ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਦੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਹੋ ਸਕਣ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਉਪ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਕ੍ਰਿਸਟੀਆ ਫਰੀਲੈਂਡ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕੀਤੀ। ਇਸ ਮੌਕੇ ਸਰੀ ਤੋਂ ਐਮਪੀ ਰਣਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਸਰਾਏ ਅਤੇ ਰਿਚਮੰਡ ਤੋਂ ਐਮਪੀ ਪਰਮ ਬੈਂਸ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਨ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਭਾਈ ਹਰਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਿੱਜਰ, ਭਾਰਤੀ ਦਖਲ ਅੰਦਾਜ਼ੀ, ਭਾਰਤੀ ਦਵਾਹੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਾਰਕੁਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਕਾਰਵਾਈ ਬਾਰੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤੇ।
We naturally oppose any move giving political space to extremism and those advocating violence. So that is our position on this particular issue. We have strongly protested with the Canadian High Commission such courts or such gathering is not helpful at all. It undermines, and we have strongly taken it up with them and told them to take action as appropriate.
Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, assassinated in Surrey, British Columbia 1 year ago today. I now invite honourable members to rise. Je vous remercie.
Thank you.
Mr. Freeland, my name is Gurpreet. I'm from Spice area. Coming back to Hardeep Singh Nijjar, Canada has sanctioned number of Russians for the death of Alexei Navalny. I don't know what is stopping you from sanctioning India that killed a Canadian citizen on the Canadian soil.
Again, I'll say something, and then maybe if Parma, Randeep want to say something. I really do want to start by saying how seriously we take this. It was a very important and solemn moment in Parliament that we all rose and stood in silence and recognized the first anniversary of this murder. And I want, to say here in a community affected by it, we see you. We see that this has happened here. and it is entirely unacceptable. Second thing I want to say is I really do want to emphasize what a significant thing it was for the Prime Minister to stand up in the House of Commons and say he had information that India was involved in this murder of a Canadian in Canada and that the government of Canada would act. That was a really big deal. Name me one other country where that would happen or could happen. It was the right thing. And it came from a real profound view of the Prime Minister. As he said, remember in 2015, a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. And for him and for all of us, there is no consideration more important than the fact that every single Canadian needs to be safe and secure in Canada, and no one is allowed to come to Canada and murder Canadians. So I want everyone to know how profound that conviction is, and I think in fairness we need to recognize how significant it was that the Prime Minister acted as he did. The final thing I'll say is law enforcement has taken action already. Everyone here knows that. Law enforcement is continuing to actively investigate this case, and I have very great confidence that law enforcement is doing its job and is going to get to the bottom of this. I don't know, Parm, if you wanted to say something. You seem to be...
No, I was just, I think, you understand, like 4 Indian nationals have been arrested. There's the investigation's ongoing, so I think these things have to go through their process, and if it comes down to that point where it needs to happen, where someone's identified, we also saw that the police agencies from the Czech have already brought the Indian national from their custody into the U.S. as well. And there'll be investigations, there'll be trial, there'll be all of those things need to go through that process before those kinds of decisions are made.
Memorize everybody's name.
Yeah, this is Hardeep Singh Nijjar from Channel Punjabi, and may I ask you a question regarding from you as a Deputy Prime Minister, or?
Yes, you can ask me any question you want.
Okay, so my question is regarding Hardeep Singh Nijjar, and in this week, Indian Parliament paid tribute to him, but before his assassination, same Indian government was under Indian pressure, was saying that you can't fly. He was in no-fly list, and his bank accounts were frozen. And what's behind all of a sudden change? What changed? And I want to ask similar. There are other people in the no-fly list as well, and they were warned by police that you can be next. So you guys are reviewing them, like after their death, you were saying paying tributes, and when they are living here, and nobody's caring about them under Indian pressure.
So thank you for the question. It's a really important one. And I do want to start by saying this week was a very sad and a very solemn anniversary, the 1-year anniversary of the murder. And I was in the House of Commons. I think all 3 of us were. And it was important to have a moment of silence to recognize this was the murder of a Canadian in Canada on Canadian soil, and that is entirely unacceptable. So I want to start with that. Second of all, I do want to say I was very proud of the Prime Minister and of the strong position he took after the murder. It was the right thing to do, but it wasn't an easy thing to do. And the Prime Minister made absolutely correctly very clear that for the government of Canada, for our government, all Canadians are the same. All Canadians have the same rights, and murder on Canadian soil is just not allowed. And the government of Canada will enforce our laws and protect all Canadians, regardless of who is threatening them and regardless of what the consequences might be. That was a big thing that the Prime Minister did in doing that. And I think all of us should feel safer and more secure knowing that he will stand for Canadians and against the killers of Canadians, no matter what. And I do want to also really take a moment, and I hope this won't embarrass him, but to thank Randeep and Suk specifically. Both of them raised this issue directly. They raised it directly with me. They raised it directly with the Prime Minister. We had also intelligence information, but they were very, very strong in ensuring that we understood what was happening in the community and threats that people were facing. I don't know, do you want to add anything, Randy?
No, I think into your extended question, I think obviously I can't answer for the RCMP or our intelligence agencies, but they will review the sources of their intelligence that put people on a no-fly list or froze any account. So I'm sure they'll review that, and I'll take it up myself as well to make sure that they look into that and make sure it's appropriate intelligence that they rely on.
Randy, can I?
You're good, sure.
I'll just add as well, so lucky to your original question, like beforehand what was done. So part of the intelligence sharing, we have agreements with countries. That is the other thing that we're reviewing right now. That you probably saw the motion 112 that Sukbaji introduced. I seconded that. What that means is, if there's information of people that are on the fly list or no fly list, that both countries need to exchange information. And prior to the events that happened, CSIS, RCMP, on multiple occasions with the Prime Minister went to try and investigate and have them cooperate in those investigations. So that did take place. And again, like we won't know exactly what conversations were had, and those investigations are ongoing. So it did happen before, where both countries are trying to exchange information and say, okay, who's doing what. So that work was being done.
That some parliamentarians are semi-witting or witting participants in the efforts of foreign states to meddle in Canadian politics. You were asked for names of MPs implicated in this report, but you're withholding that information right until the election. So just wondering, don't you feel that Canadians deserve to know and that there needs to be some transparency around this?
Thank you for the question. I think you're referring to the NSI Comp report. I do think Canadians deserve to know that there is no tolerance for foreign interference, and they deserve to know that all of us as MPs and our government take this very seriously. Intelligence is very delicate, and national security rules apply, very strict ones, to disclosure intelligence. But people do need to know, and that's why our government has supported expanding the mandate of Justice Hogue to include a review of this information. That's the right way to do it. She is a very respected judge, and that is a forum that will permit the sort of proper assessment of the underlying intelligence information. I don't know if you guys want to say
Yeah, I
anything.
just want to add, there's only one party leader who has refused to take top secret clearance. That's Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah.
He won't review it. Last time when the India question on Hardeep Singh Nijjar came up, he refused. He's the only leader that wouldn't look at the evidence then. He's again, when it's brought up now, every leader has had the opportunity. Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the bloc, Elizabeth May, everyone's had it. He's been offered the exact same. So the question you should be asking is actually him next time. Is he actually fearful that he doesn't qualify for top security clearance, or he just doesn't want to know the truth because it probably affects his party members more than anyone else? These are questions I think the media needs to ask him, because he's the only one who hasn't. As to top secret clearance, I think that's where the law enforcement agencies, the RCMP and others, need to do their work to make sure we don't malign anybody unlawfully or unreasonably. So if there's truth to those allegations, they should be, to the full extent of the law, brought forward. And I think that's where Justice Hogue will also look at that. And if there's weaknesses in in our legal system to unveil their names, she should come out with those recommendations. She was independent. She was approved by all the parties when we agreed on her. And I think when it comes out, that is the appropriate time and measure.
That concludes today's press.
Canada, and I'm so sorry about the assassination in Canada and the attempted assassination here in the United States. And so I do think it's part of an official strategy with an effort to say, but if we get caught, we'll claim that it wasn't us. Somebody was operating in a rogue fashion. That sounds like a standard excuse meant to diminish the accountability and culpability of the Indian government.
Right, because there has been the foiled plot in the United States that we know of. The unfortunate assassination of Mr. Nijjar in British Columbia a little over a year ago, and we've seen similar things in Australia, for example. Am I interpreting you right that it's improbable that they could be happening with this frequency at this scale without some sort of sanction from high levels of the Indian state?
That is correct.
So you've written Secretary Blinken saying you want a briefing on this, and also for the United States to take some sort of action. What would that look like, sir? What do you think your federal government should do to deal with India in this?
Well, at the time I was writing the letter, the next concrete step was to